Finding time to write, especially when it's not your full-time profession, can be challenging, but success can come when you create reasonable goals.
And here to help us do just that is professor and writer Nisha Sharma, who will share her 4 principles for setting goals as a writer. Nisha is an author of several novels, including My So-Called Bollywood Life. Nisha, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You know, we looked earlier at your principles and how you design things. Could you just very briefly tell us a little bit like the broad scope of goal setting?
Sure, absolutely. With goal setting for writers, it's important to first have daily, short-term, and long-term goals. It's also important to develop a support system with families, friends, and your local writing community.
Okay.
But with writers, it's also important to have a very flexible schedule and not hold yourself to really rigid standards all the time because life does intervene.
Yes.
But when you do succeed with meeting your daily, short-term, and long-term goals, you should always reward yourself.
Now walk us through that.
Yeah.
What should a writer do to meet their daily, short-term, and long-term goals? What does that consist of?
The first thing to really consider when creating daily, short-term, and long-term goals is to really sit down and envision what do you want out of your writing career. Do you want to publish a novel, a short story? Do you want to just have a daily writing prompt where you sit and you journal in order to reach personal fulfillment? Once you've established that, it's easier to break it down into shorter goals. So you can do an annual goal plan for what you would like to accomplish in the year. And then after that, focus on your daily writing goals. So what do you want to do every day? Do you want to meet a certain word count, or do you want to just write for 20 minutes? So once those are all established and written out, you'll have a clear understanding of where you want your career to go.
So your daily is a lot more detailed.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So how does goal setting fit into, or I'm sorry, not goal setting, how does a support system fit into goal setting, those people that are around you and help you out?
Sure. Writers generally, when they make the decision to pursue the craft, they're squeezing it into a life that actually has a full-time job and family, because writers don't have that 9-to-5 schedule. So you're writing on weekends, you're writing after work hours, and it's important to realize that your family time and your time with your friends is generally taken away so you can focus on your hobby.
Okay.
So when you have family, friends, writing community supporting your endeavors, supporting your long-term goals, it becomes a little bit more fulfilling for you, and it also becomes a little easier so you don't feel guilty that you're taking the time out of your life to focus on writing.
I see that the notes we have here that something about you don't want authors to feel guilty.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you feel guilty, it takes away from the joy of actually writing. And writing is a passion. It's a craft. It's a creative endeavor. And you should never feel guilty, and you should never be ashamed of enjoying something like writing, because you're generally pursuing it not as a full-time career. You're pursuing it because you have a love for it.
So embrace it.
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned BMW. What is BMW? Explain that.
So when you're creating a support system, or when you're getting your family, your friends, your writing community involved to help you, there should always be one person that is your BMW partner, which is your bewail, your moan, and your whine partner.
Got it.
Wailing, moaning, and
Whining.
So they just take it all.
Yes.
Okay.
So calling them to talk to them about plot points, about having problems squeezing in your hour daily goal. It's like a little bit of a cathartic release where you can actually commiserate with someone about your profession, your chosen craft profession, in addition to your life career.
Okay. And what about people outside of your friends and family, like writing groups? I'm assuming they have some part in all of this as well.
They do. Pursuing writing doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit in your house alone and write for however long you've decided to. Writing groups, writing communities, conferences, associations, they exist everywhere. So they can connect writers of similar genres, of similar backgrounds together, so you can have someone to talk to about what you love and what kind of genres you love. So, for example, there's the Romance Writers Association of America, there's the Mystery Writers Association of America, and then local community writing organizations, like there's one right here in Princeton called the Princeton Writing Group, where everyone who is part of the group gets together once a week just to open up their laptops and write in a community.
I can tell you from my experience, being with other like-minded people who do other writing, it fills you with a lot of energy, and it's very exciting. And it also makes you feel like maybe I'm not so crazy to try this out. Look, I'm not the only one.
Sure.
That's some great advice there.
Yes.
You note for us that we should allow flexibility. Many would say, isn't that being counterproductive?
Not necessarily. Sometimes writers have a very structured daily goal, which is great. It's very productive for a lot of people. But when family members get sick, when there comes time that you have to go to doctor's appointments and take your kids to soccer practice, things like that, it always comes in. But
when life happens, just sort of
happens,
messes up the little schedule.
Exactly.
Allow for that time.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should forego your writing time altogether. Your flexibility just means you shouldn't focus on sticking to the strict schedule that you had set for yourself. So if you have to take your kids for soccer practice because it's soccer season, how about writing in the car while you're waiting for them to come back from their practice? Or if you're going to doctor's appointments or you have an unfortunate hospital visit you have to make, writing in the waiting room, that helps as well.
Is there any advantage? I've heard of some people who do this. They'll actually have a stopwatch or a clock or a timer of some kind. Say, I must write for the next 20 minutes. Or does that work for everybody? Is that a good advice, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. When I was studying for my graduate degree, I had actually so little time for my personal writing projects. The best thing for me, and I know for a lot of my writing friends, was to just write for 20 minutes.
Oh, it was 20, okay.
So what we would do is just set little timers on our cell phones or use a kitchen timer, and we just write for the 20 minutes. So we're still working to progress towards our long-term goal. It just wasn't the same as writing for that hour-long period that we used to have.
Okay.
And before we go, really quick, you mentioned to us to create a rewards program.
Yes.
Just talk about that really quickly for us.
So when you reach your short-term goals, when you reach your long-term goals, it's really important to reward yourself because you've succeeded. And once you, and even that reward could be something small like going for ice cream or getting your nails done. But as long as you celebrate it, it just means that you're going in the right direction.
Positive reinforcement.
Exactly.
Keep you going to meet all those goals.
I'm not so sure I'd get my nails done, but I appreciate the concept.
Thank you so much, Nisha, for joining us today. We've learned a lot of great tips.
Yes.
Like to be organized. Hopefully this will keep us even more organized and
Thank
get to our
you.
goals.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thanks.